What's up, everybody? This is another episode of 60 Vids in 60 Days. This is day number 7, video number 7, right? We're going to talk about sports, UFC 249, right? Who's going to win this? It's going to be some interesting stuff. It's the only sporting event that is going on in the United States this weekend. It's going to be highly viewed, much anticipation. So, number one, okay, first let's get this out the way. Like, subscribe, follow. Tell me what you guys think in the comments. Hit me up, all that good stuff. Okay, it's out the way. Real quick, the expectations. Let's start off by saying the expectations don't have really high expectations for this fight, right? Or the card in general. There's a lot of moving parts here that are not expected or not something that they do on a regular basis. So that being said, it's going to be interesting. Don't have super high expectations for the quality of maybe a lot of these fighters are not going to be in shape. They're not going to be their tip-top self. So be careful. Temper this whole thing with a bit of lowered expectations and you'll enjoy it, right? But if what and so let's just jump right into the card. The prelims are interesting, right? You have a bunch of people that don't have a big name. You have a Vicente Lique, Nico Price, Brian Mitchell, Charles Roses, Ryan Spann, and Sam Alvey, right? They're not huge names. They're probably accomplished. They have a lot of fights between all those people, but they have their chance to show people who they are. So that being said, this is their opportunity, right? That's where all these guys in the lower card they're on the card. People are gonna watch it. They're gonna watch this whole thing. There's nothing going on Saturday, right? Everybody's excited about it, right? But then the other part of the prelims gonna have some notable names, right? You have Uriah Hall versus Jacare Souza. These guys are both veterans. Maybe they didn't reach championship. They weren't title holders, but they're very good. They're A-level fighters. They always have a couple, one or two missteps. These guys are like their careers never really springboarded, right? They always may always miss that last little pop, right, to get them to the superstar level, right? There, whether it's a trainer, personal issues, whatever it was always an issue, right? Then you have Carlos Esparza versus Michelle Waterson, right? Both very accomplished fighters. They're veterans of the UFC. They're very entertaining to watch. But Michelle Waterson, I think, has the edge. She has a little bit more of a personality when it comes to her style of fighting. So her fights have more character, have more pizzazz to them, and it's like the it factor, right? You want to see her fight. So if she wins, it's going to get her to another couple bigger fights. Carla Esparza, if she wins, then she's on her way too, right? But this is a real kind of fork in the road for these two girls, right? Which way they're going to go in their careers. If Michelle Waterson loses, this will be like 2 losses in a row. Carla Esparza, she's on a lose streak, right? She's got to get those victories. These ladies got to get it going here. This is going to be a very pivotal fight for them. It's a weird card for that to be done, but you got to do what you got to do, right? So it's like the whole thing is you got to get in there when you can. A real champion is just going to keep fighting, keep going, keep going. So then, moving on, Fabricio Verdum versus Alensky Olenek, right? So I'm going to give it to Fabricio Verdum just because he was a champion in the past and he's very accomplished. He's been retired basically for a little bit now, and he's getting back in the mix. Now, Olenek, the only problem with him is he has 72 fights. He has too many miles under his belt, right? And we know that takes its toll on it, right? So I'm going to give it for Fabricio Verdum, who only has 32 fights. Half of the fights, less than half the fights this guy has. Then you have one of the best fights, maybe one of the best prelim fights ever, which is Anthony Pettis versus Donald Cerrone. This is part 2. They fought before. I'm going to have to say that I'm going to have to kind of give it to Anthony Pettis. Anthony Pettis has been basically in his last 12 fights, he's been 5-7, right? He's due. He was a champion for a little tiny bit, right? Then he kind of fell off. I don't know why. But he's had some personal issues. Then you have Donald Cerrone, who's win, lose, win, lose, win, lose. He's all over the place, right? So that being said, I'm going to give it to Donald Cerrone. I think that, he just keeps fighting and keeps winning and losing. He's entertaining fighters, entertaining personality. I like to see it, but he's very accomplished too. They're going to fight at 170, so he didn't have to cut a whole bunch of weight. Hopefully he's healed from his injuries. He gets beat, he loses, he wins. That thing that happened with Conor McGregor was this weird situation that he just wasn't himself, right? So anyways, Donald Cerrone, that's the prelims. Now you start on the main card, right? First fight, you have Greg Hardy versus Yorgan De Castro, right? I have to give this to Greg Hardy because I think he's just more of an athlete, right? He's 6'4", 265. Yorgan is 6'1", 260. You can't be that kind of pudgy unless he was super muscular. Your cardio's not going to be there, right? So if Greg Hardy used to be a former NFL player, so I have to give it to Greg Hardy. He's 5-2. The other guy's undefeated, but that small stature factors in, right? So then you have Jeremy Stephens versus Calvin Kattar. Now Jeremy Stephens, he has 17 losses, right? So this the whole thing where people get used to losing, right? Where you're not really changing a whole bunch of stuff up. So you catch all these losses and then you're like, okay, that's just the way it is. You win some, you lose some. You're not innovating or changing. You're kind of stuck in your rut. A little bit of that's with Donald Cerrone too. He's got 14 losses, but getting back to this, Jeremy Stephens has 17 losses. Calvin Kattar has 4 losses. He's 20-4. I'm gonna have to give it to Calvin Kattar, right? I think that Jeremy Stephens kind of okay with, the losing thing. So moving on, you got Francis Ngannou. This is we're getting to the big stuff now. Francis Ngannou, 14-3, had a couple of losses versus Jairzinho Rosenstruck, right? He's 10-0, right? So the question is this a fight that Francis Ngannou can win? Yeah, they're both about the same size relative, right? About 10 pounds difference, right? They're both almost at the max. Francis Ngannou's at the max. He has a longer reach. He has punch-out power. We saw what he did to some other people, right? But I don't know that his headspace is there. When you look at the embeddeds, I have questions for that, right? I have to not give this to Francis Ngannou. I don't think he's going to win. I think it's going to go to the other guy, and the other guy has a chance to make a name for himself. This is where he has an opportunity to get to the heavyweight big boys. You get in there, that's where you're at now, right? If you got to beat one of these guys like Francis Ngannou, right? So the two biggest matches of this whole thing, you have I don't know if it's the co-main event, but anyways, you have Dominic Cruz fighting Henry Cejudo, right? Dominic Cruz, when he's on and he's not injured and he's healthy, that guy's almost unbeatable, right? And Henry Cejudo is unbeatable too. He's the champ, Triple C, whatever you want to call Henry Cejudo, right? So I think that if anybody can beat Henry Cejudo right now, it's going to be Dominic Cruz. I'm going to give this fight to Dominic Cruz. I think Dominic Cruz has the mental acuity to make a game plan in kind of short notice that's going to give him the edge over Henry Cejudo, right? Henry Cejudo is very accomplished, strong, young guy, champion, all that good stuff. But Dominic Cruz has what Henry Cejudo doesn't have, is he has a ton of experience and he has a ton of knowledge, right? Who has Henry Cejudo beat? Well, some of the best, right? If you look at his, profile, right? Let's just go over his profile real quick. And I'm looking down because I'm looking at this computer screen, right? So real quick, who did he beat? He beat Marlon Moraes, TJ Dillashaw, Demetrius Johnson, Sergio Pettis. Those are the last 4 fights he's won. So Henry Cejudo is very accomplished. He can do it, right? But then Dominic Cruz has also beaten a lot of good people too, right? And Dominic Cruz has been in the game for a long time now. He's been hurt for a long time, but he lost to Cody Garbrandt in 2016, so he hasn't fought. He probably fought like 3 times in 5 years, right? So he beat Uriah Faber, he beat TJ Dillashaw, he beat Demetrius Johnson in 2011, right? And he was really the only guy that gave him that first loss, right? So he beat a lot of good people. So that being said, I want to give this fight to Dominic Cruz, and then if you really look at it, I want to give. So let's look at the main fight, right? This is gonna be, and I think this fight is being oversold. I think Tony Ferguson's gonna dominate Justin Gaethje, right? Gaethje. I think he's gonna dominate him. I think Ferguson is on his way for the Conor McGregor fight and for the Khabib fight. I think Ferguson could be the guy that beats all those people. I think he has the skill, the knowledge, the experience, the training camp, the crazy mentality that you have to have. He has game plans and he can do all that stuff. So anyways, I think that he's our guy. UFC 249, don't expect too much. Like, subscribe, follow, tell me what you guys think. Tony Ferguson's going to win the main bout. Bye.